Hey guys, welcome back to part 3. I started this whole project back in last August and I set out to be able to melt and cast iron, and I failed. I just couldn't reach the temperatures, and I had a few other issues, so I've redesigned it, and my main 3 issues was it just needed to get hotter. So more fuel, more air I need. Also the ability to stop the fuel when you turn the pump off, or stop it from dribbling out. So I've got an electric solenoid there now, so I can just flick that off, and then it's only fuel in here in that well, instead of the whole 2 meters of fuel line and all that dribbling out. And also I wanted more control over the air and fuel, and more pressure. So I was at 60 psi. That's all I could get up to last time. I can go up to 120 psi now. And also I wanted a gauge that was in a better position. And so it used to be down here, now I've got it here, and a bigger gauge. So I've done about 3 or 4 melts of grey cast iron, and it's worked pretty good. I've been able to get up to the temperatures. It has taken about 45 minutes before from lighting it to pouring. And yeah, I've got better control. The air side is much the same, because if you have it set low and the blower becomes under load, it will go, because the voltage, it only regulates the voltage, so it will ramp right up. But yeah, it's okay at the moment. I tend to go more than I need and then back off to where I want it set, but at least I've got the ability to either go a little bit more on the fuel or back it off. So I've got more range than, because I was just running it at max last time. So I found that when I originally tested it, you could smell all of the windings, and then it had a sticker on it saying not to use a voltage regulator on it. So, and I wanted to mount it on its base because I didn't want to modify my cart. So it had holes in the bottom, and it had a bit of a stand. So it used to get its air to cool the windings all from the base, and so it kind of draws in air, so it creates a bit of a low pressure in this housing, and it's meant to suck air in there. But I've covered it, so I put big holes in the back, and I've mounted this fan, and that seemed to fix the issue. I haven't smelled or it hasn't been hot since. But I have noticed that when it is hooked on the furnace, air is coming out instead of going in. Right now it's sucking, but when it's, I think the restriction of the pipe. But yeah, I'm going to leave it the way it is. It hasn't been an issue so far, so the fan might be actually working against it when it's running. But yeah, at least if for some reason I have the voltage regulator set too low, and the fan and the blower's not making enough air, at least this sort of thing's going to be cooling the windings anyway. And my hose is probably not the prettiest, but it is a aircraft jet engine hose to start a aircraft, which was saved it from the bin, which has worked. I mean, so I've gone up a size, and it's a silicon, so it's smooth inside. It's all like a silicon hose, and then it's got a cloth outer, and this is just a protective jacket for dragging it across concrete. And yeah, so it's going to be pretty robust. And I didn't have to actually do too much. I had a flange which I was able to cut in half, and a bit of silicone hose in to space it, and it's worked pretty good. And the other end is, I think, glued in there, which worked out alright. So I've gone from, I think it's 380 watt to 750 watt blower, and yeah, and the fuel pump is a lot bigger. So I think it said it's for 700 horse cars. So, and I had this fuel filter housing, and so I've put that on there. So I've got and this has worked out all right. So I've got the suction and just a breather, and then return. And yeah, so I probably don't need a fuel regulator, because I think the pump has a relief valve set to 120, but I've got this set, so it's blowing off before that anyway. And I like the big gauge. I used to have a tap, and it seemed to always leak. Poor quality. So this is off a car LPG system. So it's I think it's rated for 250 psi, so that's more than good enough. My fuel hoses I was running, they were just standard fuel hoses last time, which I was a little bit nervous, which I probably shouldn't have done. So I've upgraded. I've got all properly rated fuel lines now. Fuel lines are rated for, I think, 220. So at least I don't have any issues. I shouldn't have any issues with bursting fuel line. And at least I just ran it inside the jacket, so that's turned out okay. I have got a check valve. I wasn't sure if I needed it or not, but I thought I was originally going to run this this little tiny check valve. I was going to put that on the burner to stop fuel from have it pressure set, so when the fuel went below 50 psi it wouldn't my brother mentioned, why not just run a electric solenoid valve, and I didn't think much of it at the time, but I think that's gonna be a much better idea, and it works great. So the fuel pump does drink a lot of power. I wasn't sure how to go about that, so I've just added just a cheap $70 Amazon power supply, and that's rated for 10 amp, and I just turn that on when I'm using it, just to help, because it's got the AGM batteries mounted underneath, and this, whenever it's plugged in, this little charge is always putting a bit of juice back in those batteries, which I did have an issue last time I used this. I forgot to turn this on, and for about 15 minutes I was running on just the batteries and this little, what is it, 1800 milliamp. So yeah, that's way too small. It was fine for the other EFI pump, but definitely not this one. So I'm not sure. Well, I have done over an hour with this. As long as I start it with that on, I think I should be fine. Otherwise, yeah, I might need to. I'm probably better really with just one big one. I've overcomplicated it, but yeah, I'm happy with it so far. I've tried to use what I've had, and that's just the tank breather here, which goes back to the tank. And the rest of this kiln I've been happy with so far. At one point I did have green sand to line the bottom, to seal it between the bottom half, and that did not work. It was blowing it would make a slight vortex of sand, and you get it coming out everywhere. So I've gone back to just using clay, and yeah, it's been and that's another thing I need to do. I need to actually have this attached, a bracket on here or something, so I can have it bolted. So when I first test fired this with the upgraded fuel cart, it actually went worse. The more fuel I gave it, the less flame it actually started to die, and I soon realized it was quite silly of me. But because I changed my nozzle from a 45 to a 60 degree, and my nozzle was too far back, that the spray was condensing, and I was filling the base up with diesel. So I've trimmed that down, which I think it would have been a slight issue before, even with the 45-degree pattern, but I've made it so much worse when I went to the 60. And I didn't really think much of it when I originally designed this, because being so hot, I thought everything would kind of burn, but no, it was just filling up. So I've got it's sand, and I've got a drain which I've kept open, and nothing has come out there. See, that whole issue has been eliminated. Plus, this has probably helped as well, being able to shut the fuel off instantly instead of having all the fuel lines, because they kind of expand. They act a little bit like a accumulator. And yeah, and then just full dribble out here. So that has fixed a lot of issues there. Well, I think so. And it also saves me if I was using the tap, because I wasn't using the tap, but saves you bending down, because I can either flick off the pump or this by the switch, and yeah, it works good. My melt times probably would be reduced a lot if I hadn't have used a castable refractory. If I'd gone with like a kale wool and then putting a coating on it, I'm not sure, probably would be better, maybe. This is okay, it's just you've got a massive wait time in bringing the kiln up to temperature. I mean, so I'm melting cast iron, it's kind of liquid at around the 30-minute mark from lighting it, which is probably not too bad, but if it was a different lining, it would be a lot quicker. Because I've got about 80 kilos of refractory, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it takes a bit to absorb all that heat and get up to temperature. I am very glad that I didn't cast the base, though yeah, I have had the issue with fuel soaking in, but at least if I have a spill, at least it's just pull this off this and tip out the sand or whatever I've got in there, and just put some new clean stuff in there instead of having molten metal that's gone solid or whatever and embedded into the refractory. At least, yeah, it's all replaceable. So yeah.